Swansea RFC has chosen the Welsh Rugby Charitable Trust as its charity that will support in the season 2014-2015. We are very grateful as trustees and injured players for this decision by Swansea Rugby Football Club, and we assure them that every penny raised will be applied to the main purpose of the trust, which is to look after those players who have been so unfortunate as to suffer life-threatening injuries through playing rugby football in Wales. The trust has been established since 1972 with a range of charitable objectives, but the main one, by a long way, is the help that it gives to injured players in Wales. The help that it gives takes a variety of forms. In fact, whatever a player asks the trustees to consider is dealt with at meetings, and more often than not the player receives the help that he's asked for. He or she, I should say, because we now have injured lady players as well. The main thing I think that the trustees can do for injured players, those who have got severe traumatic injuries, is to provide them with a motor car adapted in many cases so that the player can revert to the independence he had when fully fit and take his place fully in the social life of the community. Cars these days can cost up to £65,000, suitably adapted so that the player can get in and drive himself with his wheelchair. And that is the scale of what the trustees are trying to do these days. This is why the help given by clubs like Swansea is so invaluable to us, and we encourage players, officials and supporters alike to grab hold of this opportunity to support this, probably one of Wales's foremost rugby charities. My name is Edward Jones. I'm the Honorary Secretary and a Trustee of the Welsh Rugby Charitable Trust. I've served the Trust now for the best part of 30 years. I've started off as accountant and then progressed to being Honorary Secretary and then latterly as a Trustee. It has been a great privilege to do this work, and I've worked with some of the great people in Welsh Rugby who've given freely of their services for a long time. Two well-known people in the Swansea area who I've worked with on the Trust, Mr. David Price, who was formerly a long-time secretary of Swansea Rugby Football Club and a headmaster of Olchfa Comprehensive School, and latterly our treasurer is Mr. Alan Thomas, who was honorary treasurer of Swansea Rugby Football Club for a long time in the 70s and 80s. There are something in excess of 167,000 registered charities in the UK at the moment. Many of them are very worthwhile charities involving children, heart, blind, deaf, whatever, and we recognise that the general public wishes to support many of those charities. It is therefore to the rugby constituency that we, as trustees of the Welsh Rugby Charitable Trust, look for our support, and we are particularly grateful to Swansea Rugby Football Club for adopting us as their chosen charity in this year, and we can only encourage you on the opportunity you might be presented with to give as generously as you can to this charity which looks after severely injured rugby players in Wales.